This video is sponsored by NordVPN. In 1943, Lady Be Good, a brand new US B-24D Liberator aircraft, disappeared on its return to northern Africa after a bombing mission over Italy in World War II. Following a confused radio transmission, the airplane apparently overflew its base in the middle of the night and traveled for an additional 2 hours in the dark into the middle of the desert. Hopelessly lost, it's believed the crew donned parachutes and abandoned the aircraft before leaving it to continue flying on its own. Neither the fate of the plane nor the crew would be known for over a decade, sparking rumors and leaving behind a mystery with elements that remain unsolved today. Do you sometimes wish there was a little more mystery in your own life? Internet companies seem to know everything about us these days. Protect yourself and your privacy online by fully encrypting your internet connection with NordVPN. Visit nordvpn.com/darkdocs and use promo code DARKDOCS to get 70% off NordVPN and 1 month free. NordVPN is an ideal solution for those who want to shield their communications and personal data online. Visit whichever sites you want, when and where you want, without being tracked. Avoid those creepy ads that seem to know every website you've ever visited. Bypass streaming service GeoBlocks to access the entertainment you want to see in any country. Book travel from virtually any country and get the best quotes. Whether torrenting, visiting the dark web, or online shopping, NordVPN gives you peace of mind by shielding your identity from the prying eyes of your ISP, government, or would-be hackers. Support DarkDocs and protect yourself online today by signing up. Visit nordvpn.com/darkdocs and use promo code DARKDOCS to get 70% off NordVPN and 1 month free. With a 30-day money-back guarantee, try it out yourself and see how NordVPN can improve your digital life today. Mission. (1942) saw the beginning of direct American military intervention in World War II. Up to that point, Europe seemed like it would fall in Hitler's lap. With Germans launching an attack on the USSR to the east and winning fight after fight to the west, the Deputy Prime Minister Clement Attlee even complained about Churchill's leadership to Parliament, quote, "Our Prime Minister wins every debate and loses every battle." American involvement started to change that, with the first strategic focus placed on Italy, which Churchill on occasion referred to as the, quote, "soft underbelly of the continent." To reach the targeted country, aircraft often departed or crossed through North Africa, and such was the case of the B-24D baptized Lady Be Good. The B-24D Liberators were heavy bombers manufactured in San Diego by Consolidated and used frequently during the Second World War, after which they were replaced by B-29 Superfortress aircraft. The Liberator was designed with high speed and long range in mind, with a ferry range of up to 3,700 miles or 6,000 kilometers. On March 23, 1943, several B-24Ds were sent to the 176th Bombardment Group base in Soluç, Libya. One of these was assigned to the 514th crew in April, which included co-pilot Lieutenant Robert F. Toner, flight engineer Sergeant Harold J. Ripslinger, and 7 other crew members. The plane was painted with its new name, Lady Be Good, inspired by the Broadway musical, on the front of the forward fuselage and the starboard. The assembled crew was just as fresh as the plane, having arrived in Libya in March. Their first mission would be flying Lady Be Good alongside 24 other B-24Ds to bomb the harbor of Naples as part of a 2-phase attack. 12 planes would take off first, followed by a wave of 13, and after the bombing they would return to Libya. The Lady Be Good crew were part of the second wave, and in fact were the last to take off at 2:15 p.m. On the way out of Libya, the crew faced sandstorms and poor visibility, and some of the other planes returned before crossing the Mediterranean. Reports conflict over whether the plane caught up with the rest of the formation and whether it actually reached Naples. Either way, with poor visibility and a mission that had become more complicated than expected, Lady Be Good turned around. The crew dropped its bombs into the sea to save fuel and lighten the aircraft's load. On this return trip, however, the Lady Be Good would mysteriously disappear. The last anyone would hear of the crew for a long time was a radio transmission to the Soluç base asking for assistance, since the automatic detection finder was failing and the pilot needed guidance. The crew received no such guidance. A search and rescue team was sent to the suspected area where the crash most likely would have occurred, but nothing was found. This failed search launched the first rumor related to the plane, that it had crashed and sunk into the depths of the Mediterranean. World War II ended with the fate of Lady Be Good and her crew entirely unknown. The location of Lady Be Good would remain a mystery until 15 years later, when in 1958, a group of geologists from the Darcy Oil Company spotted a crash site from a plane while flying over the desert in Libya. They contacted the Wheelus Air Force Base on the coast of Tripoli, but the officers at the base largely ignored the call because they had no record of losing a plane in the area. Lady Be Good was supposed to be at the bottom of the sea. As the oil company continued to scout the area, they decided to send another team to investigate in 1959. Gordon Bowerman, a friend of the Wheelus Air Base commander and a surveyor for the Darcy Oil Company, led the expedition. After reaching the site, Bowerman wrote a letter to his friend, attaching information from documents on board and names of crew members found embroidered on left-behind clothing or engraved on equipment. This time, the claim was taken seriously. Having been exposed to sand, harsh sunlight, and cold nights for 16 years, Lady Be Good was surprisingly well preserved, allowing for technical study, and with parts such as the machine guns and radio still fully functional. A full military inquiry was launched in May of 1959 and went on until August of the same year. As part of the investigation, the military conducted ground searches around the area, only locating some equipment, clothes, and arrowhead markers. The report stated that the crew had possibly left behind items so they could be found. As for the crash itself, the GRS reported that, quote, "The aircraft flew on a 150-degree course towards Solich Airfield. The craft radioed for a directional reading from the HFDF station at Benina and received a reading of 330 degrees from Benina. The actions of the pilot in flying 440 miles into the desert are indications that the navigator probably took a reciprocal reading off the back of the radio directional loop antenna from a position beyond and south of Solich, but on course. The pilot flew into the desert, thinking he was still over the Mediterranean and on the way home." The investigation concluded that while the aircraft had not been found, the most likely scenario was that the crew had overflown the airbase during a sandstorm, which had prevented them from seeing the flares fired to attract the B-24Ds. It had flown for 2 hours past the base when the crew abandoned the plane, letting it crash by itself 26 kilometers or 16 miles away. Yet the crew was still nowhere to be found. A research engineer from McDonnell Douglas Corporation launched a new expedition along with a Royal Air Force rescue team in 1968, in which they gathered data and information with collected samples donated to a museum in Texas. What they found reignited a number of rumors that had circulated at the time the aircraft disappeared. The fact that the wartime report had completely missed where the crash site was inspired publications and the general public to theorize and imagine what could have happened with the aircraft. Due to the well-preserved state of the aircraft, people became fascinated with the idea that the plane had been piloted up until landing by a surviving pilot or co-pilot, rather than being left to crash by itself. The only clue that this was erroneous were the missing parachutes. Had the aircraft been abandoned over the desert or over the sea? Emergency rations had been found on board, including water and drinkable tea in a thermos. The media speculated that a team lost in the desert would have surely taken those along if they had to trek through it. So where were they? A rumor spread that the crew had been immediately captured by Bedouin nomads and enslaved. Furthermore, it was rumored that parts of the plane taken by the military and supposedly installed in other aircraft were haunted. In particular, a C-54 allegedly fitted with auto-syn transmitters from Lady Be Good had propeller trouble that forced an emergency landing. Another plane, a C-47 that supposedly inherited the radio receiver from Lady Be Good, allegedly had to be abandoned in the Mediterranean. Finally, a U-1A Otter serving in the Army is said to have used seat armrests from the Lady Be Good before it was lost in the Gulf of Sidra. In February of 1960, oil company employees from the United Kingdom found more definitive traces of the crew members, prompting Army officials to continue searching and processing the site as part of Operation Climax, which lasted until the summer of 1960. Some personal items were found through this extensive search, including jackets, parachutes, canteens, and other pieces of equipment, including 2 diaries which captured the journey made after the crash. With the newly discovered personal effects, the Army was able to discern what the surviving crew did immediately after the crash. They found each other by firing into the air and following either flares or sounds. The United crew then decided to walk towards the north, which was actually the opposite direction they should have traveled. Some Army officials believed that the crew genuinely believed they were flying over the ocean rather than the desert at the time they decided to jump off board. They landed about 400 miles or 640 kilometers into Libya. Some have asserted that at night, the empty desert seen from a high altitude can indeed seem like part of the ocean. Furthermore, the items found in the area, such as boots, parachutes, and clothing, may have been markers to lead the rescue team in the direction they went. The diaries recovered belonged to co-pilot Robert F. Toner and Sergeant Harold J. Ripslinger, both pocket-sized books with dates pre-written. Ripslinger's diary was recovered in a less than ideal state than Toner's, but both provide insight into the sequence of events that took place. Toner's diary includes a recount of the day of the crash, quote, Sunday, April 4th, 1943, Naples, 28 planes. Things pretty well mixed up. Got lost returning, out of gas, jumped, landed in desert at 2 a.m. No one badly hurt. Can't find John. All others present. Entries detail the hardships they had to face crossing the desert, including little sleep, cold nights, and sandstorms. The journals express little of their hopes, thoughts, and feelings. In true military style, they keep to the allotted writing space and almost only include facts and details of their trek through the desert. While they walked north, reports have confirmed that disorientation played a key role in this choice, since walking in the opposite direction would have led them to the oasis of Wadi Zigan in about half the time that they had walked. A final entry detailed how 5 of the airmen stayed behind while 3 continued north in search of help. The fates of all but 1 are known to have ended in the desert. Staff Sergeant Moore was never officially found. Thanks for watching, and thanks again to NordVPN for sponsoring this video and offering Dark Docs viewers 70% off and 1 month free. Visit nordvpn.com/darkdocs and use the promo code DARKDOCS to get this exclusive offer.